Hello everyone, Adrienne here. So today I'm going through the very last of the samples of absinthe that I have not tried yet. Although technically I have tried this one, but I'll get into that. I'm so sorry. As you guys know, I typically like my absinthe reviews to be a really first impression, genuine experience. However, this one will be just a little bit different in that this was a sample that my mother-in-law kindly gave me the last time that Kenny and I visited Yakima. She got a bottle of the Cthulhu Verte at a really, really good deal. And since she got it before I did, she said, hey, when you come up here, you can try it with me and I can give you a sample of it so that you can review it on your channel. So, huge disclaimer, this is not my first time tasting this. I'm really sorry to deviate from my typical format of it being a first impression. But that being said, I do want to give my honest thoughts and opinions on Cthulhu Verte. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I will be also receiving a sample of Cthulhu Blanche pretty soon, so I'm very excited to try that one as well. Big thank you to Adrienne Payne for sending that to me in advance. I really appreciate it. I'm really excited to try the Blanche and see how it is. So in regard to the Cthulhu Verte, here is what Alandia says. By the way, if you look in the description below, there is a coupon code for you guys to get 10% off your order. Hashtag not sponsored, not affiliated, I promise. They literally just contacted me and said, hey, you can get a 10% discount, and if you want to share this code, please share it. So thank you very much, Mike from Alandia. Really appreciate it. Hell, that's probably going to help me with getting my next big absinthe haul that I plan on getting. Well, not like big, but a few. Okay, so Absinthe Cthulhu Verte. Cthulhu Verte Absinthe is a tribute to the fantasy epic of H.P. Lovecraft. Cthulhu contains traditional ingredients of absinthe, such as 2 different varieties of wormwood, fennel and anise. In addition, unusual oriental herbs such as cardamom and coriander complement its exceptionally sweet, tart flavor profile. The sensory appearance is rounded off by a second maceration with blackberries and wormwood. Okay, so this is super interesting. And when I was tasting this with my mother-in-law, we were noticing kind of like a fruity sort of like note in there, but I will definitely get into that when we drink this together in this video, because honestly, it's kind of fun drinking absinthe on camera. It feels like I'm sharing it with you guys and just sharing a glass of absinthe with you. It's great. So yeah, sounds really interesting. So I will show you guys the sample that I received and just my kind of initial impression on it. Okay, yes, I know exactly what this looks like. Now, those of you who don't know, I am a phlebotomist in my day job, so I draw blood quite a lot. However, every now and then I have to deal with urine specimens. Every now and then. It's not fun, but I have to deal with it. And I will say that the color was a little bit discouraging to me because it's definitely not crystal clear. So that is one thing that did concern me when I initially had my first glass of this with my mother-in-law. However, I will withhold my rating and everything for the entirety of this video, so I will proceed as usual, hopefully without too much delay. And since I know I'm going to get asked, I just want to address the lip color that I'm wearing, because I know people are going to ask. They're going to be like, oh my god, that looks so cute. So this is actually a combination of 2 different colors by Black Moon Cosmetics. So as a base, I am wearing Hazel, which has become one of my favorite like green lipsticks in my collection, and I like how this more closely resembles absinthe, and I think it's just really flattering on me. And I have olive undertones in my skin, so olive colored lipsticks aren't going to look good necessarily on everyone, but I'm glad that it does look good on me because I love this color. It's beautiful. It reminds me of absinthe. It's great. And then I have a very light overlay, very light layer of the color slime, so that's kind of giving it this multi-dimensional kind of sparkle that you see here. So those are the 2 lip colors that I'm wearing in today's video. I realize it doesn't really match my eyeshadow that much, but I filmed multiple videos today. This is going to be the last one, so as soon as I'm done filming, the makeup is coming off and I'm chilling the fuck out. I did a lot of work today, damn it. Alright, so now comes the point where I reposition the camera and we're going to take a look at Cthulhu Verte. This will be interesting. Alright guys, so now I'm on the other side of the camera checking out the louche and the appearance of Cthulhu Verte, and I'm on this side of the camera, like behind the camera, because I find that I have just a little bit more control over filming this for TikTok as well as for YouTube, so that's why I'm here. You know, just in case you were wondering. So let's check out the appearance of Cthulhu Verte. Definitely has a really interesting smell. So I will say that the color is just a little bit concerning, just because it's cloudy before anything hits it. It's a little bit brown looking. It literally looks like urine instead of absinthe. The smell is interesting, but we'll get into that when we evaluate everything else. So appearance, I'm gonna give it 3.5 stars. Screw it, I'm just gonna give it 3 stars because it's a little bit concerning. You know, typically absinthe should be crystal clear before you even add water, so that's why it's concerning. Alright, so now we're going to begin the process of the louche, and I'm going to be using the bouillon that I have for this glass, and it's going to be pretty great. Alright, so let's check out the louche and see how it is. Okay, so the louche is looking pretty good despite the initial start with it being cloudy right off the bat, which usually, like I said, is concerning. But the fact that it clouds up right away, really, really good sign. And the fact that you can see the very thin layer of pure absinthe kind of floating on the top again shows you what good quality it is. And it doesn't really have a spectacular louche color, not really, but it definitely louches properly, and that's what we're here for. That's what we're concerned about. And yes, I'm using my bouillon 2-part glass today because I don't want to get out my whole fountain. Sometimes it's a pain in the butt to deal with. I will say the more water that gets added, the thinner the louche gets, so maybe now is a really good time to remove the water. I have a little bowl right off camera, guys, sorry about that. Okay, so as far as the louche is concerned, it's not the best that I've seen. I probably want to give it like 3.5 stars for the louche because it's really not all that impressive, and it's not as thick and opalescent as I typically would expect with a high quality absinthe, so it's just slightly disappointing. So yes, 3.5 stars for the louche. Alright, I'm going to reposition the camera and I'm going to evaluate the aroma and the flavor. and the mouthfeel and give my final thoughts. Alright guys, so we have our glass of Cthulhu Verte. I did give this a tiny bit of a mix just to see if that would help, and it seems to have gotten slightly more opaque. Slightly. Like, not as much as I would prefer with a high quality absinthe. So I'm still gonna leave my score at 3.5 stars. Like I said, it's just not quite there. Like, I'm still kind of like seeing light through it. Yeah, I don't know how much you can see that, guys. Do you see that? Yeah. Yeah, so the fact that the louche is just a little bit like thinner than what I remember when I was trying it with my mother-in-law is a little bit concerning, but anyway, let's carry on. So one thing that really strikes me with this one is that it has a really interesting kind of like peppery and kind of rosemary-like sort of fragrance to it. And I definitely noticed this when I tried it with my mother-in-law as well, is that you're not really getting that much of the Holy Trinity, and sometimes that's okay. Sometimes the Holy Trinity will come through in the taste and not so much in the aroma, but I'm guessing that the rosemary-like or the kind of basil-like flavor that I'm smelling in there are probably like one of the two, or maybe both, of the different types of wormwood that are used to make this. So you kind of get like a rosemary kind of scent with this, but not in the same kind of pleasant way that I remember with, say, like Cthulhu Verte or something like that. So I do like rosemary. I love rosemary. It's wonderful. I'm just not as wowed by this one, if that makes sense. So for aroma, I'm gonna go ahead and give it 3.5 stars. It's interesting. It has a little bit of sweetness and definitely some like fruitiness, but that rosemary scent is just getting me right in the face. Alright, so time to evaluate the flavor, and as always guys, salt it and please drink responsibly. Still very botanical, a little bit peppery. I'm really getting that cardamom kind of coming forward and coming through in the finish. It coats the mouth really, really nicely. Again, I'm really not getting that much of the Holy Trinity. I'm guessing it's because they really wanted to emphasize the wormwood more than the other pieces of the Trinity, which, you know, it's fine if you want to do that, but you know, it's definitely not a traditional absinthe. It has a little bit of fruitiness, which kind of rounds it out and makes it just a little bit sweeter. I wouldn't necessarily call it sweet tart, as the description on Alandia says. I definitely wouldn't call it that, but it's not the worst I've had, but it's definitely not the best. But I will say that just because it's not the best that I've ever had, it doesn't mean it's only because it's not a traditional absinthe, but you know, it just deviates a little bit. I would say that cardamom kind of overpowers it. Maybe that's the peppery smell I was smelling. Combination of the wormwood and the cardamom. It starts out sweet, kind of like moves into bitter, and then it finishes off sweet again. It's really interesting. And it's definitely not the sweetest absinthe I've ever had. Wow. And I think maybe because this one is not as heavy on the anise flavor, my husband might like it. Thankfully, he's home. So I'm going to see if he can give this a try. Hey, babe? Taste time! Precious, I apologize in advance. So this is the Cthulhu Verte that your mom sent me home with. Smells like rosemary, doesn't it?
A little bit. Kind of a little bit of a nutty smell.
Nutty?
A little bit.
I kind of described it as peppery.
Well, it's real smooth. It tastes a little watery.
I'm concerned that I may have. I'm concerned that I may have added a little bit too much water in it.
Okay.
Just a tiny bit, because the louche kind of slowed down and I was waiting for it to form. And I may have added just a little bit too much water.
Yeah. It's got a really light flavor. It is not as strong
on the anise.
It's not as strong a flavor as a lot of the other stuff I've had. Let me get her a sip here.
Apparently, through the second maceration, they added blackberries. Are you kind of feeling that fruitiness kind of come through?
A little bit after I've breathed and then reclosed my mouth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I noticed that it starts sweet and then it gets to the like peppery kind of like rosemary flavor, and then it sweetens back out again, if that makes sense, after you swallow.
No. I mean, it's very tolerable to me in the fact that since it doesn't have as strong a flavor as some of the other stuff.
Would you recommend it to beginners with absinthe?
I would say so, yeah. I'd say that'd be decent for
if you want like a little bit of a draft of a too strong.
Ugh.
Very rosemary-like, isn't it?
I don't say rosemary-like. It's just like this very strong alcohol smell to me. But I mean, it's one of those things that if you told me I had to drink absinthe, I would drink that because it doesn't hit me over the face
with the anise
flavor.
Which is weird because you really liked butterfly, but butterfly has star anise, which is what will give you that hit you over the head anise flavor.
Yeah, but I mean, like maybe I definitely would try that with a little less water next time, because I do feel like it's a little watery. But at the same time, that could just be like, even if you did the exact right amount of water, it's possible that it's just kind of a watery flavored.
It's possible.
I'd have to have more to try that, but
yeah,
I don't really quite have time. But
yeah, I have enough for probably another glass like the same size. So maybe after you get home from the movies tonight, we can give it another taste.
Okay. Yeah, I'll try it. But yeah,
thank you very much for your input, honey.
Yeah.
Love you. My husband is wonderful at being a second opinion. So, it's not the worst, but it's also not the very best absinthe I've had. It's definitely not traditional, but I think that's probably why Kenny likes it, that it's not like hitting you in the face with the anise flavor. So, if you're someone who wants like herbal and maybe a little bit spicy, but you're not really sold on green anise as like a primary flavoring in absinthe, then maybe Cthulhu Verte would be a really good one for you. I am slightly concerned that I may have added just a little bit too much water to this one, because it is a little harder to control the louche when you're dealing with a Brouillard glass as opposed to a fountain. So that's just me. So flavor, I'm going to give it... I kind of want to give it 3.5 stars. Just because it's strange, but it does offer some like fruitiness and does offer a really good mouthfeel that doesn't sting the hell out of your tongue, which is really nice. The wormwood seems really present, but it doesn't seem to be in like the worst way. So for flavor, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars, and for mouthfeel, I'm going to give it 4 stars, because the mouthfeel is really, really nice, and it goes down really smoothly. So overall, it seems like a 3.75 overall rating based on all of the notes that I made throughout the filming. of this video. So I'm really, really glad that my mother-in-law gave me a sample of this to review on my channel so that I could have another tasting of it. When I had it at the time at her place, I said that it wasn't necessarily my favorite, but it wasn't terrible. It seems to be naturally colored, which is great, but I am concerned that it started out kind of cloudy. As you can see here, it looks like urine. But, you know, it did loosh right away. The little clear layer on the top didn't really disappear fully, which made me want to add more water to it, but I guess that may have been my downfall, and I may have added just a little bit too much water. So I might give it a try later on this evening, and if I do, I will make notes in the video here to give you guys my final thoughts on it. Yeah, definitely not traditional, but not terrible. I would say that of the absinthes I've tried that are not traditional, this is probably mid-range, if that makes sense. I would say the only thing I can think of that is similar to the flavor profile on this one is probably, oh gosh, what's the name? I said it earlier, Cthulhu Verte. So Cthulhu Verte did give a kind of really nice rosemary flavor, but it obviously wasn't rosemary, it was actually wormwood that I was tasting. Oddly enough, I think they're close to the same family. Interesting. But I think I prefer Cthulhu Verte over this one. Definitely not bad, it's definitely different, but it's just not fantastic necessarily. So I would recommend this to beginners who aren't quite sold on absinthe and aren't really too big of a fan of green anise flavors or star anise flavors, which, you know, if you're dealing with a genuine absinthe, then you shouldn't have to worry about the star anise being a thing. However, that being said, if you're a beginner and you want something sweet and a little bit spicy and want something that's not going to whack you in the face with anise, then maybe this is a good one for you. So, thank you so much for watching, everyone. I really enjoyed having you here today. I'm ready to take off my makeup and rest and chill for a bit and get something to eat. So, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and make sure you hit that bell for notifications for more videos on absinthe and goth music reviews and gothic literature reviews and more. We have a lot of fun here. We have some variety. It's pretty great. And thank you so much to my patrons for your support every single month. It really, really means a lot to me. And to everyone, you're amazing. I love you, and I will see you guys later. Bye!